Stay hooked up, baby. Stay hooked up. Get in here. Yeah. How about that one? How about that one for number 2?
Derek Hudnall, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. Lance wants to know, how do you fish big rivers like the Red River, like the Atchafalaya Basin?
Lance, that's a great question, man. And I grew up in South Louisiana. I love fishing the Red River, the Atchafalaya Basin. The number one thing that you have to think about when you're fishing any type of big river system is the fish. The feeding patterns of the fish are dictated by one thing, and that's current, water movement, and water temperature. Current, water movement, water temperature, the things you need to key on. Unless those fish are spawning and they get into backwaters, if you're in a main river system, the fish are going to feed based on current. So find the strongest current you can. Covering current is a big key, and rocking current, especially in the Red River, is something you really need to key on. But other than the spawning period, fish feed on current, so try to concentrate on that.
Daryl Gleason, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. Matthew Prochaska wants to know, in the fall, fish are keyed in on bait. How do you get them to commit to your bait versus the live shad balls that are swimming around the lake?
Man, great question, Matthew. It's really in depth. It's kind of $1 million question, because fall typically is a tougher time, tougher puzzle to figure out, and that's why, because the fish get so into shad. But I'll give you a few things that I do. Typically for me, a lot of times the shad are super small they're feeding on then, and that attributes to what makes it so tough. So even like, let's say, schooling fish, chasing shad on top in the fall, what I do here is I'll downsize my bait. So instead of throwing like a full-size walking bait, I'll drop down. The other thing I have found that works for me is a lot of times I like to throw like a bone color topwater bait, and instead of going to a bone, I actually go to like a more of an iridescent see-through, like more of a clear, not completely clear, but like more of a clear bait. I feel by doing that when they glance up and see, they see a little color, it looks a little smaller, so it gives a profile of a smaller bait, even though you still get the benefits of a larger bait, moving more water, casting further, those kind of things. On all my other lures, I kind of do the same, man. Like on my crankbaits, I'll go to more subdued colors, like more of the translucent kind of ghost colors, whether it's a square bill or deep diving crankbait. The other thing I do too, especially when I'm fishing out deeper, if I'm throwing like a jig and spoon or a tail spinner, you know, we do that a lot here, where there's a lot of fish out deep chasing bait and 25, 30 foot. You're actually trying to do the reaction trick strike. So that's where like you throw it out and you get real violent with your spoon or your tail spinner and then let it fall. I'm trying to mimic a shad. Out of that group of shad, I want my shad to look different. And so we can do that with a rod tip and our cadence and just try to make it look really different. It's a great question, dude, and it's a tricky one. Fall can be a very tricky time, so try those, see if they help you. Like for me, it's helped me get a lot more fish in the boat that time of the year when they're keying on small shad.
Tyler Rivet, Colton Humbard wants to know, have you used the new Garmin Live Scope, and also what your favorite bait is in the fall to use with Live Scope?
I'd say yes, I've used Live Scope, of course. I'm with Garmin, and I think that's the greatest product they've ever made, or anybody in the fishing industry's ever made. It's cash people checks, it got people trophies, and it's one of my favorite things. I even use it down here in the south. When it's 6 foot deep, you can still see 40, 50 feet in front of you and see what you're flipping at. And especially in the fall time, you can see a lot of bait moving, and obviously in the fall time, fish are feeding up, getting fat, and they're looking for the bait. So even in the deep lakes, you can just pan it left to right, 100, 200 feet, and you can just find them bait balls that they're suspended under. And you just follow it with the trawler motor, get right under them with that Live Scope, and you can catch every one off that school. So it's a great product to have. Everybody needs to have it. You need to definitely get in the boat to learn it, because it took me a little bit to learn and try to figure out just the ins and outs of it. But now that I know everything about it, it's a game changer.
Mr. B's Honey wants to know, when everyone's up shallow fishing a weightless stick bait up in the bushes, how do you set yourself apart, and what are you going to go to be a little bit different than everyone else?
Man, Mr. B, that is an awesome question, man, because we have all been in that scenario where everybady's catching them on a weightless stick bait. Especially in bushes. I'm going to tell you, I like to do the opposite when something like that happens, because a lot of those fish are seeing the same bait every single time. I like to try on something big, heavy, a big jig, 3/4, 1 ounce weight with a Missile Baits D-bomb on it and really get a good rate of fall through those bushes, because you're going to catch fish that are going to react to that bait falling fast rather than that stick bait just flowing down, because they're all seeing the same thing. But go reaction, go big. It may just get you those couple of reaction fish that you need to succeed in that tournament.
Outdoors TV with Evan asks, what's your favorite fall bait to catch a giant fish?
My favorite fall bait would be, number one, my go-to would be punching big mats that are kind of shrinking down, getting smaller, and it's just condensing them fish into smaller mats. So your hookup ratio, your percentage is going up with everything getting in smaller groups, or bigger groups, I say, in smaller areas. So punching, definitely, because you always get a big fish bite, and it's a reaction bite 90% of the time. If it's no grass or there's nothing to punch on the lake, my go-to is a topwater in the fall, just because they're going after bait, they're going after bait fish. It don't matter, brim, bigger fish. Their forage is growing, and like I said, if you just keep that topwater in your hand all day, you'll get 5 bites hopefully, and it's going to be the 5 right ones that you don't need to call out your live well.
Evan Lucas wants to know, in the fall, where are the bass at?
Oh, good question, Evan. A lot of the pros often after tournament days, you know, like a lot of the Bassmaster Opens run in the fall, and there's a lot of us scratching our heads at the end of the day wondering like, where are they at? Okay, so to me, fall is almost like spring. Bass wake up each day in the fall looking to do something different. I don't know why exactly. A lot of it's because I feel like they anticipate winter's coming, but they act like complete helter-skelter, dude. Like, they are crazy. So the biggest thing I would tell you as far as finding where they go is, like, mentally go out on the water and be ready to attack them with a fresh mind. It doesn't matter where you caught them yesterday, where they caught them last week, where your buddy caught them the other day. Go out with a fresh mind. You make some choices when you leave. I'm gonna go to the back of the creek, I'm gonna shallow crank. Go try it. The biggest thing I could tell you, because as a former school teacher, amateur fisherman myself, I can look back and see the mistakes I made, is us amateurs, we'd spend too much time on one pattern or one technique or one area. So in the fall, I want you to be very versatile, be ready to move, try something different, because the fish are everywhere and they're nowhere. That's the thing you always hear. So, and what we mean by that is you got fish that are starting to chase bait back in the fall. You have a lot of deep fish, like where I live at here at Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn. There's tons of deep fish that have been out deep all summer long, and as fall starts transitioning, they don't necessarily like swim a mile in the back of a creek. They'll find there's a lot of bait balls out deep, and they'll suspend under them and feed under them and things like that. Our Toledo Bend's real famous for our standing timber. There'll be fish out on like the main lake that just get around the timber and suspend around that, so those fish will go there. So don't let the generalities of the fall pattern lock you in. Stay versatile and keep looking, because they are always biting something somewhere, always.